Hello, my name is Dr. Romit Salyan, Retina Fellow from Aravind Eye Hospital, Coimbatore. I'll be presenting a case of autosomal dominant cystoid macular edema. A 38-year-old female came with complaints of diminution of vision in both eyes, left eye greater than right since 9 years, and diminution of vision was gradual and progressive on and off. There was no history of pain, redness, ocular surgery, night blindness, systemic illness, and she was not on any local or systemic medications, including oral contraceptive pills. So her best corrected visual acuity in the right eye was 6 by 6 and in the left eye was 6 by 18. Inter-segment evaluation was within normal limit and there was no cells of flare or no cells in the anterobitreous space or signs suggestive of any ocular inflammation. So coming to the fundus evaluation, there was a normal healthy looking disc with no arterial attenuation except for the fact that there were presence of few cystoid changes at the fovea. A similar finding was noted in the left eye with healthy disc and vessels with few cystoid changes at the fovea. So we went ahead and did the OCT of the right eye showing cystoid spaces including the inner nuclear layer along with the outer plexiform layer. Similar finding was noted and well appreciated in the left eye, in which the inner nuclear layer were most prominently involved. So we went ahead and did a fundus fluorescent angiography. In the right eye, showed hyperfluorescent pooling of dye in the mid and late phases, suggestive of a cystoid macular edema. And the fundus fluorescent angiography picture of the mid periphery in superior nasal and temporal and inferior nasal quadrant were within normal limit, showing no signs of inflammation. A similar finding was noted in the left eye, in which the mid and late phases showed increasing hyperfluorescence with the suggestive of a cystoid macular edema, uh, with the mid periphery showing no signs of inflammation. So with this careful history taking and multimodal imaging, we ruled out the differential diagnosis mentioned on the left half of the screen, and we were left out with the differential diagnosis of retinitis pigmentosa at autosomal dominant cystoid macular edema and juvenile retinoschisis. So to narrow down the diagnosis, we went ahead and did a full field ERG of this patient, which showed a normal rod and cone function, ruling out cystoid macular edema secondary to retinitis pigmentosa, and also there were no B wave abnormality suggestive of any juvenile X-linked retinoschisis. So going ahead with the treatment, the patient was treated with tablet Diamox 250 milligrams 2 times a day. 15 days later, the visual status of the left eye improved to 6 by 9 and the right eye was already 6 by 6. The OCT is showing marked diminution of the cystoid field fluid collections seen in the left eye. However, 2 weeks later, the patient came with the drop of vision in the left eye back to 6 by 18, and the OCT revealed an increase in the size of cystoid fluid collection in both the eyes. So coming to the literature review, a single large study conducted by Saxena et al. And published in AAO included 97 patients, and age at presentation in this study included from 2 years of age to 45 years, and the complaints was progressive vision loss. The staging of this disease was done with the use of fundus fluorescent angiography, fundus autofluorescent, and OCT. The stage 1 included visual acuity range from 6 by 6 to 6 by 60, and ERG was normal in all these patients. Stage 2 had progressively smaller cystoid fluid collections with atrophic changes at the macula, and visual acuity ranged from 6 by 6 to hand movements. ERG was subnormal in 14% of these patients, and stage 3 included visual acuity range from 6 by 12 to hand movements with profound chorioretinal atrophy. ERG was abnormal in 76% of these patients. The mechanism postulated in the development of cystoid macular edema in patients with RP are loss of polarity of the RPE cells, break of outer blood retinal barrier secondary to low grade inflammation due to anti-retinal autoantibodies, and reduction in the retinoschisin level after photoreceptor loss. In autosomal dominant cystoid macular edema, the mechanism postulated is break of the macular inner blood retinal barrier, which depends on the Muller cells, astrocytes, and pericytes. and later on RPE dysfunction also adds to the so acetazolamide interacts with the carbonic anhydrase subtypes 14 and 2 in the RP and Muller cells and causes passive water egress. Rebound cystoid macular edema has been found to happen in these patients when which the treatment has been stopped, and acetazolamide has been found to be more effective in stage 1 DCMD. Other treatment options include topical dorzolamide, NSAIDs, steroids, anti-VEGFs, and long-acting somatostatin analogs. So to conclude, ADCME is a very rare disease entity and is a diagnosis of exclusion. The intranuclear layer and Muller cells are the primary cells to be involved in this disease, and a complete systemic and ocular examination is required to arrive at the diagnosis of ADCME, and gene mapping is required to confirm the diagnosis. Autosomal dominant CME shows a dose dependent response to acetazolamide, which still remains the first line of treatment. Thank you.